Yeah, hey, come on. I'm hitting new levels of come on the desert and not on the iron, the rock heavy metal. What? Yeah. Hitting new levels of come on the desert and not on the iron, the rock heavy metal. Whoa, hey, yeah, yeah. Hitting new levels of come on the desert and not on the iron, the rock heavy metal. Whoa, hey, yeah. Hitting new levels will come on the bezel, the nine on the iron, the rock heavy metal, the fire and the power. I grind by the hour. We working on building the whole them in power. The signs in the stars, mine is on Mars. Nigga Tesla, lightning bars. Ain't down pro, man, I'ma go hard. Need a big house, big watch, big car. Need a big house, big watch, big car. Need a big bang, man, need to go yard. Living high fashion in the last days. I don't give a damn, man, let him eat cake. I don't give a damn what a hater gon' say. Hard to see an asshole got a fool getting paid. Getting revenue every time, make a wave. Red up like the water, cause we making these waves. Red up like the water with a gang like slaughter. Millie on my mind live, I be round high. Laughing to the bank while I'm stacking all these dollars. Getting real high while I'm pulling on this la-la. Putting numbers on the board like it was a aha. Praying to the pancake like it was a aha. Got the studio doing numbers like a trap house. In the backwoods, been in corners with the strap out. Hitting new levels will come on the bezel. The nine on the iron, the rock heavy metal, the fire and the power. Gone by the hour, we working on building a whole damn empire. The signs and the stars, mine is on Mars. Nigga Tesla, lightning bars. Ain't down pro, man, I'ma go hard. Need a big house, big watch, big car.
All right, what's up, everybody? So, that was Lil Vibes music. That's a new introduction. I might tweak it a little bit, but that's what I got so far, and I loved it. So I definitely had to play it. Shout out to Lil Vibe. He's actually in the show right now. Definitely go check out his music on Spotify. I actually had that up in the beginning, so if you've seen it, you've seen it. But today, what I'm going to be talking about is, just ending the series on Zecharia Sitchin's The Earth Chronicles. And I'm starting right here with the last book, the 7th book, of course. And it's, the last one in his Earth Chronicles. Is not the only book or the last book that he wrote since then. He actually has a couple of other books after that, The Lost Book of Enki and the Anunnaki Chronicles, and then another one that's actually full-fledged fiction. I know a lot of people would say, well, isn't the Lost Book of Enki fiction also? And yes, it is. It's definitely fiction. And I will show that when I bring that up on next week, because I'm going to finish out all his books by next week. And then I can move on, because, I'm harping on him hard. But he does have a lot of books out there. So like what I want to do is I want to, share with everybody what I've learned from reading the books, not my personal opinions, not my, my narrative that I'm trying to create or anything like that. All I want to do is just share exactly what I've read. And I've been doing that for a good 2 years now. What's so funny is that there's this dude on YouTube that was going in on me. Well, he's trying to go in on me about how Zecharia Sitchin was right. And, there's the Sumerians knew 12 planets and this, that, and the third. And the funny thing is at the end of the discussion, because I told him to go check my profile out. And this is on YouTube, actually. I told him to go check out my profile. Just take a sneak peek. That's all I told him to go. Just take a sneak peek and see what I'm about. He told me he went to go use AI for his information. Now, I'm going to tell you, I can go against AI any time of the day. I can tell you that right now. And anybody that has been watching me for a while knows that I've actually brought AI into this to see if I could challenge it. And I've definitely challenged it. I've asked this specific questions like, did Samuel Noah Kramer talk about vampires in his book? And he most certainly did, because I already did a series on that, what I've learned reading his books, put that on there already. So it's not a matter of me being right. It's just I'm telling you what I've read. I don't use AI to go get my information, unlike a lot of people. I don't need AI because I read. I pick up the books and I read them. Not only do I read them, as you all know, I keep them tabbed up. So every book that I have is tabbed up. It's literally tabbed up. Okay, so what I'm saying comes straight from the books, and I can tell you what is right and what's wrong. And you can go ask AI whether this is fact and fiction. And if you don't ask AI the right questions, it's definitely not going to give you the right answers. It's going to give you the answers that you want to hear. But I'm not going to give you what you want to hear, because I'm not trying to make you feel good. I want you to go do your due diligence and stop being lazy and go and read this stuff. If you have time to go watch TV, you have time to go read. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I can explain that. I guarantee you, everybody in this room right now, watch some of the shows over and over again. If you're watching the same show over and over again, go pick you up a book. Okay, because that's what I do. I literally watch The Simpsons. I have another computer right here next to me, my laptop right here, and I have a MacBook in my bedroom. I literally stay on point on everything that I do. I don't play around with what I know. I have my PC right next to me, so everything that I'm doing I'm mobile everywhere. Like if I'm going somewhere, I take my laptop with me, or now just the Mac that I have. Or if I'm right here in my house, I'm jumping on my PC. It's not about me trying to prove that somebody's wrong. I just want to know where you got this information that made you believe what you believed in the first place. Like I said earlier, and I got a lot of DMs from a couple of people from the last show saying, "Hey, man, that was a really good 16-minute, introduction. I really understood what you were saying." Look, I'm just going to be honest with you. There's a lot of people out there that just want to be podcasters. A lot of people out there that just wants to, hear people talk. I don't want to hear somebody talk. I want to ask you questions. I'm going to read your books. I want to sit here and understand what you're saying. And in some cases, I want to challenge you. And if I ask you a question that you don't know, don't make up something, because you're not doing anyone any good. Because if you can't give me the answer that, is satisfying to my ears, and what I mean by satisfying to my ears is that if you can't give me a source for what you said, then what's the point of believing what you say? If you can't read the ancient text for yourself, why would I want to hear something that you can't back up without a source? Okay. That's why I don't care about people's beliefs. I want to know what you know, why, and where did you get that information from? And if you've read it, I should be able to read it, right? I can't dig inside your brain and figure out what you did, because most of the time when I start digging in people's brain and asking them questions, they get really offensive and really mad about it. There's a lot of people out there that think they're experts in a lot of fields, but don't have no academia to back it up. And I'm not saying you have to go to college for any of that. I haven't been to college. I did about 2.5 years of college. I didn't like it. I just couldn't stand it. I never liked school in the first place. That's the whole reason why I joined the military, because I didn't want to go to school. And I tried it because a lot of people said, well, that'd be better off for you and this, that, and the third. I didn't need school to be successful and be where I'm at today. So I'm not going to go and waste my money trying to figure out. And I know a lot of people say, well, don't you have the GI Bill? Yeah, I do have the GI Bill. But guess what? If I'm not interested in something and I fail that class, guess who has to pay for it? Me, out of pocket. So if it doesn't bring me interest and joy in what I'm doing, then I'm not going to really pay attention to it. And another reason why is I'm not good at math, so I'm not going to even try to take any math classes. But we're going to start with this book right here, The End of Days by Zecharia Sitchin. And in this book, it's just basically a reiteration of things he said in his prior books before that. He says it in different ways. He puts it in, different terminology and stuff like that. And a lot of times he contradicts himself. And I've already talked about that and showed that and brought that to you guys' attention in the past. So we're going to go ahead and jump straight to the first tab. Oh, it's in actually one of the first pages. Okay, let's see. Oh, I didn't know it was that close. Okay, here we go. First thing that Zecharia Sitchin says in the book, he says, or what I tabbed up, is actually page 10. It says, according to Sumerian text, the Anunnaki established kingship, civilization, and its instructions as most clearly exemplified in Mesopotamia as a new order in their relationship with mankind. Now, that's actually right. Well, I'm not going to say that's actually right, because what is kingship? That just means somebody that rules over somebody else, or somebody's in charge. So in reality, the Sumerians aren't the first people that had kingship. There's always been leaders around. Matter of fact, in Native America, the Native Americans here in Americas, they had a certain type of kingship, or a chief that they would call it, right? And that goes back at least from my research here, just in Georgia, from the Ocmulgee Mounds by itself, 18,000 years ago. Literally, I went and did a podcast or article on that. I'm gonna go back to Ocmulgee again for the fourth time. I'm gonna do a video on it. I didn't do a video on it in the past, and that's why my Rumble account is, me going back to these places and actually doing videos on them. But when you walk into the museum at Ocmulgee Mounds in Georgia, in Macon, Georgia, actually, you will see that they have, different time frames of the settlements and time frames of the individuals that came there, or that was there. And it goes back 17,000 years. That's what it says, 17,000 years. But some people say 18, but they actually have 17,000. So I'm going to just go with 17,000 on there. So with the bare minimum, at least they had some kind of chief or individual that was in charge. That's what a kingship is. So Sumerians did not come up with that first. Now, the second thing is, he says civilization. I always say this to everybody. What is the criteria that is needed to be considered a civilization? You know, Dr. Margaret Mead says that the first civilization started around 15,000 years ago because of a femur bone that she's seen that was healed. Writing system is, according to Dr. Nili Samet from Bar Ilan University, which I had the opportunity and the privilege to take a class from there, from that location. So in the essence, what is the criteria that is needed to be civilization? Is a writing system? Is it taking care of each other? Is it being a group of individuals? Is it, buildings? I've heard people say advanced technology. Well, what is the criteria to be considered advanced? Well, guess what? A bow and arrow being used versus throwing a rock, that bow and arrow is advanced technology. Literally, just look at the etymology and the origins of the words that the people are using, and maybe you will be able to better understand. For me, that's how I understand it, because when people say advanced, I want to know what is considered advanced, right? And Zecharia Sitchin never ever explained what he considered a civilization. At least I haven't came across anything that he says. I know he's done plenty of videos and stuff like that, but in the real essence and idea and the truth and the fact of the matter is the fact that I never had it. So if anybody has that, give it to me, and I'll be able to, adjust my ideas of what he considers civilization. But I can tell you that he considered, from what his books say, he says that a civilization, he doesn't necessarily say that it's a writing system, but because of the writing system in itself, he says that's where civilization began. But also in the essence, this is where it's confusing for him. A pictographic script is considered a writing system, and we definitely have writing systems around the world that predate the Sumerian civilization by itself. So that's just the facts. The next tab is just this part right here. Okay, see if we can clear it up. And probably can't clear it up, but basically what it is it's just the hierarchy of the pantheon of 12. If you watch the last video and the videos before that, he had the same thing. That's why I said he reiterates the same stuff that he says. Literally, his books is just, he could have took all this information that he wrote in these 7 books and maybe wrote 2 or 3 books out of it. These books aren't that very long. They're about 200 to 300 pages, give or take. And the font is pretty big, so it's reading a book would take maybe 1 day, 2 days at most, depending on how fast you read and how much time you spend reading. But he really does just talk about the same thing. So if you read the first, second, and third one, in reality you don't really need to read the other one. So this one is chapter 3, and this is where he talks about Egyptian prophecies and human destinies and stuff like that. So with this, I'll just read the first part of it. It says, in the annals of man on earth, the 21st century BC saw in the ancient Near East one of civilization's most glorious chapters, known as the period, or third period. It was at the same time the most difficult and crushing one, for it witnessed this end of the Sumer in a deathly nuclear cloud. Now, let me tell you something. This is what's interesting to me. So the Sumerians and Akkadians are supposed to be neck and neck on, in reality, of the first civilization, because guess what? The first civilization, the Sumerians, their writing system, it started off as a pictographic script for trading, right? To trade from one group of people to another group of people, them to somebody else, basically, right? How are you having so that other group of individuals that you was trading with, obviously they had to have a writing system for you to understand too, so you can trade with them, right? And back and forth, right? So when they say Sumerian civilization, but the reason why the Akkadian civilization is not on that same level as the Sumerian is because they consider it when the kingship, really the kingship, Sargon of Akkad, is Sargon of the Great, depending on what you want to talk about. Sargon of Akkad is the individual that is basically the first king, not the first king according to the Sumerian kings list, but he's the first king that brought the 2 civilizations together, the Sumerian and the Akkadian civilization. And that happened around 2334 BC, give or take. The reason why I remember 2334 BC is because I've seen that number so many times, not just through Zecharia Sitchin or other individual or people like him, but from modern academia and stuff like that. So, in this, when this Akkadian civilization, when Akkad, Sargon of Akkad took over in 2334 BC and brought the two civilizations together, that was literally what most people will consider the end of the Sumerian civilization. Not in the essence of, them being destroyed or taken out, but they were brought in as a group of individuals as one. So they fell under one kingship, basically. And actually, since I brought up the Sumerian king list, if you look at the time frame of the Sumerian king list, according to 3200 BC, which is given for the first civilization of the Sumerian civilization, you will see that the Sumerian kings list actually comes way after that. So, and this is a lot of things. A lot of people like to take what happened between the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, the Assyrians, Hittites, and then I know some people would say not the Hittites, but the Hittites did have their cuneiform, and they believed in Enki and Enlil and all that other stuff. And you look at all the individuals that is at that time frame, they take it and they say, hey, this is all the Sumerians. No, you have to separate the Sumerians from the Akkadians, the Hittites, the Assyrians, the Babylonian, Chaldeans, and so on and so forth. But with this chapter, he's basically talking about here we go. I read this part. The historic events of that memorable century, as all events in history had their roots in what had taken place before. Of that, the year 2160 BC is a date worth remembering. The annals of the Sumer and Akkad from that time period, a major policy shift by Enlilite gods. In Egyptian, the date marked the beginning of changes of political, religious significance, and what occurred in both zones coincided with a new phase in Marduk's campaign to attain supremacy. Now, like I said before in other podcast episodes, the Egyptian civilization started somewhere around 5500 BC. I actually took a class online from a place that actually talks about that, and I'll bring that up in a later video. But basically, they say 5500 BC, and the reason for them is mostly it has to do with three things actually: writing, agriculture, and kingship. Now, if you look at the Sumerian civilization and you look at the first kingship in Egypt, which is very argumentative, you will still see that the Egyptian civilization may have started before the Sumerian civilization. If you was here my last video, the video before this one on the sixth book of his Earth Chronicles, you heard me say that Zecharia Sitchin gives the Egyptian civilization around 3100 BC, and he says, around 3200 BC for the Sumerian. How can you have an exact date for any of them? You can't. Nobody really has an exact date for either. They're just picking and choosing, and how they pick and choose is, they do their radiocarbon test and all this other stuff, and then they say, okay, this is the roundabout dates, and they pick a date in that roundabout date to sit there and create a new narrative for their own, whatever reasons they want to do it. But we're going to go to the next tab. Let's go to the next tab. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Listen, I want you guys to pay attention to this, because next week on Monday, I'm going to go over the Anunnaki Chronicles. And this is a book that is actually a book that Zecharia Sitchin's daughter, or niece, I'm sorry, published on his behalf, or I'm not sure it's on his behalf, but published these books after he passed away. And these are supposed to be unpublished books. Now, if you remember me saying from even the first book that I talked about, the first beginning when I started these Earth Chronicles, you would know that Zecharia Sitchin has at least 3 or 4 different reasons on, or 3 or 4 different beliefs of what the word Nephilim and Anunnaki basically meant. And this is a good prime example of why I say that he exaggerated, because he created different elements of his ideas to create a new narrative. And this is a perfect example. He says, my readers, and this is in parentheses, My readers may recall that it was my question as a schoolboy of why Nephilim, which literally means those who came, listen, those who have come down, who descended from heaven to earth, was usually translated giants. It was much later that I realized and suggested that the Hebrew word for giants, Anakim, was actually a rendering of the Sumerian Anunnaki. Now, a lot of people do believe Anakim and Anunnaki is one and the same. Prove that linguistically, and we can go from there. But I can tell you that those who have come down, who descended from heaven to earth, that's not what Nephilim means. Go to the Strong Concordance, which is available online from BibleHub.com, and you can type in Nephilim, and you will see exactly what Nephilim means. Matter of fact, I had a podcast discussion in my early days when I first started doing this podcasting stuff with Jeff Benner, which is a very respected individual, about the translation of ancient Hebrew texts. He actually reads them. He sent me about 16 of his books for free. I dug down in them. I always go back and read them and research them. He has been big on this stuff, and I actually had a podcast with him, and it was actually you know a very, very, very interesting conversation about the Elohim. But if you look up Strong Concordance on what Nephilim means from the Strong Concordance, all it means is the word fallen. That's it. Nothing else. It means no more than that, no less than that. It just means fallen. You want to challenge me? Type in Strong's Concordance in Google or whatever search media you have, and you can see the number that it relates to, because it has a number for it, and it'll tell you exactly what it means. And what's so interesting is, have you ever had a falling out with somebody? I have plenty of time. I talked about it in my last episode. Did I fall from heaven because of them? No, we just had a falling out. We, whatever, however you want to understand that, is we no longer communicate, talk, or interact with each other anymore. We are no longer friends. We are no longer acquaintances. We are no longer associates. So understanding what the word fallen means, just use how you would use it today in 2025. Man, I had a falling out with them people because of this, that, and the third. That's it. That's all it really means. So it doesn't mean that they came from heaven outside any extraterrestrials or anything like that. I didn't fall from out the sky with these people. My feet were still planted 10 toes down on them, straight up 10 toes down on them. While they sitting there, tiptoeing around and everything, I'm standing 10 toes down. So what I'm trying to say is, no, I didn't fall. Nothing happened like that. So just understand, when I do that book tomorrow, or Monday, I'm sorry, I would get into that more, because there's a lot behind that. So, like I said, go to the Strong's Concordance and you'll be able to see that for yourself. Let's move to the next tab. The next tab says, a most chilling prophecy indeed, for before the 21st century BC was over, judgment upon lands and peoples occurred when the god Era, the annihilator, an epithet for Nergal, unleashed nuclear weapons in a cataclysm that made prophecies come true. Now, what a lot of people believe, if they follow Zecharia Sitchin, is that there was some kind of nuclear explosion that hit that area somewhere in Mesopotamia. He talks about this in the book. That's why it's called, the End of Days. And on the bottom it says Armageddon and Prophecies of the Return. Now, I've told plenty of people this plenty of times. I have this special, and some people are going to roll their eyes at this because they won't believe it, but I have this special ability where I can tell something is going to happen before it happens. I knew I was going to fall out with certain people. I knew it. I already knew it. I felt it in my bones, because when you listen to your intuitions and your gut feelings, you can tell when something's going to be happening. I don't react until they make me react. And I know a lot of people say nobody can make you do anything. Yeah, they can. People can make you do things. Just push that right button. Everybody has a button that can be touched and pressed. It just depends on how much pressure is applied to that button until it's activated, right? So in essence, I have this special ability. So I know what a prophecy is. I know what prophets are. I know what, some people will say, follow your intuition and all this other stuff. So anybody can come up with anything. And, it doesn't take knowing that life can eventually be ended, right? We know Earth is some type of living being, right? We know that it has water, it has oil, as plants, air, atmosphere, and all this other stuff. That's why they say the word a dying planet, when a planet is going from being able to sustain itself to basically exploding, or whatever they want to call it. But anybody can come up with an idea that eventually the earth is going to end. I can say right now, 2025, the earth is going to end in the future, and it happens. Does that make me right? No. I'm pretty sure there's 7 billion other people who probably thought that, right? There's always, and you don't have to be a prophet for any, you don't have to necessarily say, a prophet for anything. Like the coming of Jesus Christ, there are a lot of people who say, well, the Old Testament doesn't talk about a Messiah or somebody coming and save them. Yes, there is. There's always, if you're a slave, which a lot of Israelites were, if you're a slave from the Atlantic slave trade, eventually you're going to hope and pray and wish that somebody's going to come over and fix that. And when it eventually happens, doesn't mean that you was right. It's just it's almost impossible not to have something to change things. Just like Rome, when people before Rome fell, a lot of people say, well, Rome never fell. Yeah, it did. It fell and it got rebuilt into something else. No different than anything around this world. Just because one thing ends doesn't mean that it ended for everybody. They just change the names and they redo it. It's no different than changing your business license name when you got caught up doing something bad, and you want to change your name because you don't want nobody to have your name associated with it. And it's not until you do them dig dives that you can see that the same person that owned that store 10 years ago and who was ripping people off and never really got trialed or went to jail for what they did, they eventually changed their LLC and their business license and all that stuff, and then they may no longer be the ones that's running it, but they are the ones that own it, right? And you just got to be careful. So understanding that something's going to happen in the future, it's all about just how you look at it and be perspective from your perspective. All right, so this is the next tab that he talks about. He says Genesis 11, 27, 31. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begot Abram, Nahar, and Haran. And Haran begot Lot. And Haran died before his father Terah in his land of birth in Ur in Chaldea. And Abram and Nahar took wives. The wife of Abram was named Sarai, and that of Nahar's wife Milcah. And Terah took with him his son Abram, and Lot, and the son of his son Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, and went with them from Ur and Chaldea by the way to Canaan, and they reached Haran and resided there. So this is why I marked up that. So I have an 1873 Bible, and in the Bible, it actually, and it's from 1873. It's not a republish, it's not a remake, it's nothing like that. It's actually from 1873. So basically, if I was in 1873, that's the Bible that I would have. And the reason why I marked this up is because of the simple fact that in that Bible, it talks about Babylon, Chaldea, and Sumer being all one and the same. So remember when I said that Sumer ended at a certain time when the Akkadians, basically made it under one kingship. That doesn't mean that the Sumerian culture ended or the people who were considered themselves Sumerian ended. That just means that they basically intermingled in with the Akkadians and the stuff culture. It's no different than how here I'm in Georgia right now, and in Savannah, Georgia, there's a lot of Irish people, right? And a lot of people don't know that Irish was big in Savannah. And that's why Savannah has the biggest St. Patrick's parade when it comes around, is because there's a lot of Irish, and it's a tourist town and all that stuff, but it's known for Irish. And then also know about the Atlantic slave trade and stuff like that. But when it comes down to it, a lot of people in Georgia don't consider themselves Irish. They call them country boys, right? Or down south Georgia boys, or whatever the case may be. And but when you look at their background, their ancestry, and so on and so forth, you will see that they're Irish. A lot of people don't claim that they're Irish from here, only when it comes up to being St. Patrick's Day, which is funny because I grew up around here, so that's interesting. So the next tab that I got on here was, let's see. All right, so it says, as in a movie, usually a crime thriller in which there are various eyewitnesses and principals describe the same event, not exactly the same, but from which the real story emerges. So are we able to reach the same result in this case? Now, this is interesting. He says that because yes, that's absolutely right. If we have different, if there's a car accident and there's 10 people who witnessed it, there's going to be 10 different people telling you exactly what it is. Some people are going to say that it was a car. Some people are going to say it's a truck. Some people are going to say an SUV. Some people are going to say a vehicle. Some people are going to say blue, black, red, green, orange, whatever. There's going to be different things on it, but we know the basic foundation of what happened is that it was a car accident. And some people in reality are not going to sit there and, truly uh, give to care about it because of the simple fact that it didn't happen to them. So they're not going to really care about the absolute truth unless it involves with them getting some type of money or being given something for their help and whatnot. I can tell you right now, nobody, even from Zecharia Sitchin 1976 timeframe when he first wrote his book, The 12th Planet, nobody witnessed what happened 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Nobody witnessed what happened 5, 6, 10,000 years ago. Only thing we can do as a group of individuals is take what they depicted on their artifacts in their writing systems and read it and try to understand it for themselves. Now, a lot of times, like I said, a lot of people would say stuff like, like the guy that was talking to me on YouTube, he was sitting here saying, the cylinder seal VA243, which I talk about a lot, that has the 12 planets, including Nibiru and all that other stuff in there. And he was saying, that's what the Sumerians said. They knew about more than 5 planets. And I'm telling you, according to Samuel Noah Kramer, they didn't know more than 5 planets. Okay, it wasn't until later on. And then when I mentioned Pleiades, he was like, I'm not talking about Pleiades. And I'm telling you what, obviously you don't know what cylinder seal VA243 is, because Dr. Michael S. Heiser actually has a great explanation of it, which I don't agree on it. It's great explanation in the essence that he's trying to explain it from an academia side. The only reason why I don't agree with it is because the Pleiades is 7 stars basically. And if you look at cylinder seal VA243, there's more than what they consider 7 planets. But let's not forget about how many moons are out there, right? Because, like I said, people will pick things for their own narrative. There are planets out there, and I want you to do your own research on this. There are other planets out there in our solar system that we know of that has many different moons, more than one moon, right? Earth, from what we understand, Earth only has one moon. And we don't even know how much about that moon in the first place because they said we never went on to the dark side. But of course, they say the Chinese people did. So we're going to go with that. The next tab, it says, and it's so funny that he talks a lot about nuclear weapons and stuff like that. So he says, and so it was that in the year 2024 BC, nuclear weapons were unleashed in the Sinai Peninsula and in the nearby plain of the Dead Sea, and the spaceport and the 5 cities were no more. So basically what he's saying is that somebody dropped a Hiroshima Nagasaki type nuclear weapon in those areas. Okay. Now we know for a fact, 100% fact, that Nagasaki and Hiroshima was hit, right? But where in any of the cuneiform tablets does it say that? And it doesn't. I don't know where he gets this from. He says he gets these things from depictions and stuff like that and all this other stuff. And I'm pretty sure there's a figure in here that might even show that. I'm pretty sure. We'll get in. Hopefully we'll get into it. There's nothing in. Yeah, see, because this chapter where I got that last tab from is chapter 6, and it's called Gone with the Wind. This is exactly what he talks about. And I'll read the first paragraph because I didn't mark this paragraph. But it says the unleashing of weapons of mass destruction in the Middle East underlies the fear of Armageddon prophecies coming true. The sad fact is that a mounting conflict among gods, not men, did lead to the use of nuclear weapons right there 4,000 years ago. And if there ever was a most regrettable act with the most unexpected consequences, that was it. Now I can tell you right now, where in the uniform tablets does it say that? Nowhere. Okay. And I can tell you he does use certain depictions of this. And I can tell you there are certain gods in the Anunnaki Anuna / pantheon that are associated with certain types of I'm going to say rockets. But I want you to look up what a rocket is. Guess what an arrow is? An arrow is considered a rocket in its origins of what a rocket is. The etymology of rocket, you'll see that an arrow can be considered a rocket. So that's and honestly, you can see that they talked about rockets way before rockets were invented. Literally, this is not just in the Sumerian text, but I'm talking about history period. So, but he says nuclear weapons were actually used at that time frame. So I just want to know where he actually got that text from, because when I showed you how to look up the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature the other day, you will see that you won't find nothing like that mentioned in there. All right, so here's another one. He says, in quotes, he says this, and Abram got up early in the morning and he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and toward all the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, vapor went up from the earth as the smoke of furnace. Let me tell you something. If you that close to see something like that, trust me, you already hit with some kind of especially vapor. If you could see vapor went up from the earth as the smoke of a furnace, then you're very close to that explosion. And trust me, you're going to be hit with some kind of radiation. But we'll keep going. The next tab is carried by the evil wind. It was a death from which there was no escape. It was a death which roams the street, is let loose in the road. The highest wall, the thickest wall, it passes like a flood. No door can shut it out. No boat can turn it back. This is what he says. Those behind doors were felled inside. Those who ran to the rooftops died on the rooftops. It was an unseen death. It stands beside a man. So you're telling me Abraham lived through all that, and you saying he was close enough to see all that? But then in the next, and let's see, he says this on page 84 about the Sodom and Gomorrah thing. And then on page 89, he tells you that people died when they was that close to it. Makes no sense to me, but we'll keep going. That's why I say he contradicts a lot what he says. Then he says, after 2,000 years, the great Sumerian civilization was gone with the wind. Okay, like I said, Sumerian civilization started around 3200 BC. This is according to Bar-Ilan University, Dr. Nili Samet. And then in 2334 BC, when Sargon of Akkad took over, when he brought the two civilizations to begin together, that's when the civilization for the Sumerians, in retrospect, ended. So him saying almost 2,000 years, no. The Sumerian writing system, from what I've read personally, has been all the way up to 1 AD, literally 1 AD in their writing system. But it wasn't the same writing system that when it started. Not saying it wasn't the same exact one. What I mean by that, it was the pictographic script wasn't of the trading that they used when they first started their writing system, didn't go into 1 AD. It changed a lot after that. It was just considered Sumerian because they used elements of the Sumerian. I'm still trying to understand how that is possible when it's changed, but I think it's because they considered the Sumerian civilization of that time frame very important. A lot of people were still writing in that because they were trying to hide the knowledge. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people will say, there's a lot of hidden information out there and this, that, and third. No, it's not. You just don't know how to read it. And the people that tell you they know how to read it, they're not teaching you. Instead of them teaching you and getting you to learn it for yourself and trying to bring it to an area where we can all understand, or people in general, they want to tell you this is what you need to believe. Forget teaching them, but just believe what I said. It's like somebody telling you, hey, you don't need to read the Bible. And I'm not going to give you a copy of the Bible, but if you have questions, just ask me. No, I want to read that Bible for myself. And if I have questions from the Bible, then I'll ask you, right? Here's another one. The scientific journal Science devoted its issue of 27 April 2001 to paleoclimate worldwide. In a section dealing with the events in Mesopotamia, it refers to evidence from Iraq, Kuwait, and Syria that the widespread abandonment of the alluvial plain between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers was due to dust storms commencing 4,025 years before the present. Now, most people know before Christ or um, uh, there's another one. What is it? I can't remember. But anyway, the study leaves unexplained the cause of the abrupt climate change, but it adopts the same date for it, 4,025 years before AD 2001. Yeah, there's a lot of dust storms over there. Anybody that spent time in Iraq and Afghanistan knows there's been dust storms. I mean, come on, man. I've been in Iraq and Afghanistan. I can tell you those dump storms will make people move, especially if it's during a drought season. Come on, man. Where's the nuclear explosion that it happened? Where did the Science Journal say that it was actually a nuclear explosion? We know that there's dust storms over there, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, this is the type of ignorance that people believe because of the fact that they don't. For one, they probably ain't never been there, and two, they never even actually seen anything like that. So I'm going to tell you right now, that part is wrong, as I can't tell you. I was going to say something else, but I would have got in trouble for that. But anyway, a star religion was born. The god Marduk became a star. A star, we call it a planet. Nibiru became Marduk. Religion became astronomy. Astronomy became astrology. Now, every god has some kind of relationship with constellations around the world. This is nothing new. Nobody has to come up and make up any ideas of that. Him saying that religion became astronomy, astronomy became astrology. No, actually, religion didn't start from astronomy. Okay. And I'm going to read it. Yeah, I'm going to read it again. Religion became astronomy. Okay. The Chaldeans are the people who are known as the first astronomers. Okay. And yes, we know astronomy may have became astrology because of the idea of, the what they call it, the man, I can't even think of the word right now. The horoscopes and stuff like that. But anyway, religion didn't become astronomy. People were looking at the stars, trying to figure out the stars, figure out how the world worked, how the sun worked, how the moon worked, and all this other stuff. And then religion kicked in after that. Okay. But my question is, what is the criteria needed to be considered a religion? Because every religion started off as a cult in some way or another. But that's just what it is. So let's go. Here we go. Here's another tab. The New Testament Jesus story was so similar that scholars and theologians in Europe debated a century ago whether Marduk was the prototype Jesus. Yeah, I got quiet for a reason. How many people is considered Jesus? You got Thoth being considered Jesus. You got Lucifer being considered Jesus. You got, and I know a lot of people are probably rolling their eyes on that, but take that what you think you know about Lucifer and actually do a deep dive in actually who he is. Lucifer was a morning star, and guess who else was considered a morning star? I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, so Marduk is supposed to be Jesus, so that means Ra was supposed to be Jesus too, then, right? Because remember, in his other books that I shared, what did I say? Ra, Marduk, were one in the same. That's what he said, right? So that means Ra, Marduk, and Jesus are all one and the same with Thoth, right? So Ra and Thoth are one and the same too. Marduk is the same as Thoth. Come on, people. Come on. Let's go with it. The next tab. Historians and theologians agree that in 1760 BC, Hammurabi, calling himself king of the four quarters, put Babylon on the world map and launched Marduk's distinct star religion. That right there is incorrect because Hammurabi didn't put Babylon on the map. Babylon has been there. It's so hard to determine what time frame these things started at. And it's amazing to me that he says this and he doesn't give you actual text that backs that up. So that's just interesting to me. This is pretty cool right here. Look at this. So right here it says, in the name of God, the way of Enlil. Then it says 30 degrees north, 30 degrees south, the way of Anu, the way of Ea or Enki. So this is what he's supposed to say is the top part is the way of Enlil, the middle where, heaven and earth and all that is Anu, and the way of Ea, Enki is underneath. Now, guess where Enki and or Ea um, supposedly came from the depths of the seas. I've talked about that plenty of times. And why is the way of Enlil on the top when Anu uh, was the king of supposedly the Anunnaki and the Anuna, and he was the one that took over planet Nibiru, according to Zecharia Sitchin, from Alelu. Alelu was the guy that was in charge of the the. Well, this is the thing. Nibiru was, according to Zecharia Sitchin, was a planet that orbits our sun every 3,600 years. And we get the Anunnaki slash Anuna from Anu, okay, or An. And that's where it originally comes from. So when Alelu was in charge, Alalu, it wasn't the Anunnaki, okay? So An was under Alelu's guardianship or kingship, right? Because Alelu was the individual. So what were they called before the Anuna slash Anunnaki? And this is what's interesting to me. When you pick up the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, the book, the ancient literature of Sumer, or go to their website or whatever, the Anunnaki is a name for the gods. Okay, that's exactly what it says. If you go to my X account and you type in, in the search bar, uh, Igigi, Iggigi, or Igigi, just depending on how I spelled it, because it's spelled different ways, of course. The Igigi were the name for them, and I already talked about this in the past, was a name for the great gods. Literally, if you go to the ancient literature of Sumer in the back of the book, it says on there, and I believe I did a podcast on it. If not, then I'll be definitely doing it in the future, adding it to what I've learned from reading this book. It literally says in there that, and I've done plenty of podcast episodes already on this in the past, that the Igigi were known as the great gods. The Anunnaki were just known as gods. So meaning that the Igigi were in charge or greater gods than Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were lesser gods, basically. But what's interesting is that even in that book itself, or even on the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, the Anunnaki were asked by the Igigi, or that's at least what they put it as. They were asked to create a better species to relieve the toiling from the Igigi. And my question is why would the Igigi be doing the toiling? And, maybe they were just great leaders. You know what I'm saying? I spent time in the military, and I can tell you, I was a staff sergeant in the United States Army. I fast tracked in the military. I made staff sergeant in 8 years. And if I wasn't to been wounded and had to get medically discharged, I'd have made E7 easily in like 11, 12 years. Very easy, simple. I'd have been probably a master sergeant, the first sergeant by the time I retired, or even a sergeant major, because I was fast tracking and I was good at what I was doing. I mean, I had everything. I mean, I led by example, basically. So when my soldiers had to do something, I did it. I did it first. Okay. I never told my soldiers to do something that I wouldn't do first. If I'm telling you right now, if you spent time in Iraq in 2003, about bird shit in the shit barrels, I was out there doing that. I wasn't an NCO at that time. But I can tell you right now that as a private and a specialist in the PFC and all this other stuff that all through my ranks, PV2 and all that other stuff, I was an E1 when I joined, so I gained every rank on time or faster. Okay, and I led by example. When I was in charge of my soldiers after I got my E5, I did things that if they had to do something, I did it first. Okay, I mopped floors. I cleaned the latrines. I did everything that I would ask my soldiers to do, right? And it was because I was leading by example, and that's what great leaders do first. They lead by example, and that's exactly why, in the way I can kind of answer that question, why were the Igigi toiling? Or maybe they were trying to teach the other individuals how to do this. We don't know for sure. I can tell you right now, when you actually look at the cuneiform tablets themselves, and I showed this yesterday and prior times, if you look at the actual cuneiform tablets, they're broken. And they're not full sentences. So basically, if I take this book right here that has maybe like 300 pages in it, and I take out 250 and I'm only left with 50 pages in there, I'm going to grab information from all his other books and say, and like I said, because he, basically said the same things over and over again, I would be able to fill those other 100 and some odd pages up with what I think what it would say, because of the simple fact. And I'm not just saying just, clear out, take away all the pages. I mean, like taking out half and, erasing some of it and stuff like that. So that's how I think of it. I try to think of things simplistically, and I try to place myself in the individual shoes to how to better explain how this or that happened. Here's interesting. This is figure 74. Let me see if I can read it. Okay, here we go. It says the way of showing a long unobserved Nibiru by a symbol of a radiating cross began to become more common, and soon the Kassite kings of Babylon simplified the symbol to just a sign of the cross, replacing it with the winged disc symbol on their marker seals. So let me tell you something. This is what he's talking about, and hopefully it clears up. And I'm going to give you a good explanation of what the cross is, according to the ancient Hebrews, and not what Zecharia Sitchin said. You see where that cross is, figure 74, right there? Yeah, that's the cross. That's what the cross he's talking about. Now I'm going to tell you, when somebody looks at a cross, this is what the cross means in ancient Hebrew, and this is the best explanation that I got for. Hold on, let me clear this up because it's trying to focus back in on me. Hold on, let me see. Clear this up. Let's clear it up, camera, clear it up. Hold on, but I'll just make it smaller just until it does. But anyway, there we go. So the cross in ancient Hebrew, if you look at it, the word TAV or TAW or TAU, it's TAU or TAV that I've seen the most. It basically means X marks the spot. Okay, it was a cross, and it's two sticks was like this, cross sticks. It literally meant X marks the spot, and X marks the spot. It could be anything. It could have been from treasure. It could have been like, you see how it says that the sign for Nibiru, he's saying it's the sign for Nibiru. It literally was the sun. Okay. You remember Constantine seeing the cross, and that's when he felt like, okay, that's when he needed to switch from the multiple religions that he had to the one. I believe it was Constantine, if I'm not mistaken. But what I'm trying to say is that when he says that it's in relation to Nibiru, it's not, because that means you can see, in my eyes, Nibiru was close enough to see around that time frame of the Babylonians. Okay. And we know for a fact the Babylonians don't have anything about, no planet of orbiting our sun every 3,600 years. But I will tell you this is what's really interesting. The Babylonians thought Jupiter was considered Nibiru at one time. And it was during a time frame. And I can get more into that later, because there's actually a book that explains that. And me going into that right now would take away from everything that I'm trying to share with right now in this book. But in reality, the Babylonians was the people who considered Jupiter as a type of a Nibiru and stuff like that. And he says the planet of the crossing. So basically he's saying that planet crossed somewhere close to ours, and that's why he says it orbits our sun every 3,600 years. All right, the next tab. The planet reappeared, and again became Nibiru when mankind was granted farming and husbandry in the mid 18th millennium BC. Depictions on cylinder seals and illustrating the beginning of agriculture used the sign of the cross to show Nibiru visible. Come on, this is the stuff that blows my mind that people believe. Okay, what is sun? X marks the spot is what the cross represents in ancient Hebrew, and you can, like I said, you look it up yourself. TAU TAV. I had a discussion with Jeff Benner about it, and I can tell you right now, if you look at agricultural needs, what's the most important thing in agricultural needs besides the freaking ox and the cow and all this stuff? It's the sun. And I explained that in my last episode. You have to know when the sun is at its highest point, or where it's at the most not at the highest point, but where the location is at to start your agricultural needs. That's why Pleiades was so important throughout different agricultural civilizations, because when Pleiades was up, that's when you needed to start your harvesting, or depending on starting certain seeds for different things. It was basically a time to start your agricultural needs. And if I'm looking at this, because this is what he shows right here. If I'm looking at this, okay, if I'm looking at that, right, and I see that, I'm not going to see that cross as planet Nibiru. I'm going to see it as the sun. I'm literally going to see it as the sun. That's what X marks the spot. It's time to, we got to start planting our seeds. The sun is now over this location. That means it's springtime. You know, I can tell you right now, like I said in my last episode, I switched out my whole front yard grass from St. Augustine to Bermuda. When in my house, my front is right over here. If I'm looking at the sun, if it's lined up with my tree at a certain point, I don't even need to go look at the weather channel to go see how hot and cold it is. All I need to do is know that the sun is at the perfect point when I need to start planting these Bermuda grass seeds at. This is basic knowledge. This is why I say people are so, and I don't mean to call people ignorant in a bad way. If you look up what the definition of ignorant is basically, if I'm telling you something and you still believe the same stuff that you believe in the past, then you're ignorant. You don't want to know the truth. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not sitting up here trying to put myself on a pedestal and be like, I'm the smartest man in the planet. I'm telling you that I've actually researched this stuff, used my personal own experience, and did my due diligence, and I can explain it to you like you're a 10-year-old. Literally, if you can't explain it simple, then you don't know it. This right here literally was the star. Okay, star was what? The sun, right? X marks the spot. Okay, the sun had to be in a certain spot for the agricultural needs. This is not me saying that. That's just anybody that's a farmer knows this. Anybody that planted a garden knows this. Anybody that goes out there and use tomatoes, watermelons, cantaloupes, planting trees, bushes, it don't matter. They know that the sun has to be at a certain point if you pay attention to that. And most people do. Some people will go to the little apps because they're lazy now. But I'm telling you, it's not hard. So when he said that meant Nibiru, I was like, come on, man. Like, Jesus, bro, like this is you writing books and you making people, believe this stuff. And I'm telling you, Billy Carson believes the same stuff that Zecharia Sitchin says. Like, if Billy Carson was as intelligent as he says he is and brags about his intelligence as much as he does, he cannot deny this. It's easy to fool people because people don't have the time to research. And that's why I created this series on my website or on my YouTube channel to go over every single book that I personally are. And guess what? Billy Carson's books are coming up soon. I bought his books because how can I counter the ignorance and the false information if I don't sit there and read what they said? I can listen to their YouTube videos all day, but I want to see what people are writing because guess what? Watching somebody's YouTube channel, that doesn't cost you anything. But it costs you something when you go buy somebody's book. And because I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford some of these books and there's an opportunity to do, I'm going to bring out and show you how incorrect these individuals are. And Billy Carson's books are coming up. Trust me, I'm going to be going over his books too. And I'm not trying to sit up here and bash these people. But guess what? Billy Carson made a whole video when he got called out by Wesley Huff that we're poor and we ain't on the same level. He got billionaires in his phone and this, that, and the third, and he's the smartest man. And then he deleted it. He couldn't stand 10 toes down on what he believed. He had to delete it because somebody told him that he needed to delete that stuff because he doesn't own his own stuff. So everything that he makes money off of is because somebody else is telling him. He doesn't have the luxury to do what I get to do. And that means going against what he's actually shared. And that's why I'm telling you, when Nibiru and all this other crap about planet Nibiru orbiting our sun 3,600 years ago or every 3,600 years, and they needed gold for their planet, for their atmosphere and all this other stuff. Come on, man. You people got to do better. And I'm telling you, following the wrong person or listening to the wrong person is bad. You don't trust me. You can go through my website. I have a section on my website of all the books that I've read at least 3 times. I have a YouTube channel under my playlist, what I've learned from reading this book. And anything that I've said, if I said some incorrect stuff, there's always going to be an opportunity to correct me, and I will take that. And sometimes I will say something. Sometimes my mouth runs faster than my brain. I do have a brain injury, but I would not deny the fact that I'm going to do my own research and say, hey, look, you were right, I did say that wrong. Or hey, I misread what I've read, or I misunderstood, because I ain't misread anything. I didn't just comprehend it to the point where I had enough information to say what I said. Here's the next tab. Is a similar text from Nippur rendering the Sumerian planetary names Yuman, Pa'udu, and Sagmigar suggested the arrival of Nibiru will be announced by the planet Saturn, and after rising 30 degrees will be near Jupiter. Other texts, a tablet known as K3124, state that after passing Shul Pai and Sagmigar, which I believe means Saturn and Jupiter, planet Marduk will enter the sun and reach perigee closest to the sun and become Nibiru. Okay, so if you believe that, can you give us all the information on why you believe that? It's too bad we won't get that opportunity. Why? Because he passed away. But I can tell you Marduk was known as that. If you read the Enuma Elish, which is Babylonian, not Sumerian, okay, I say that again. If you read the Enuma Elish, which is Babylonian, not Sumerian, okay, it is actually, it would talk about, it's basically every god, the Anunnaki gods were not just human gods, like walking and talking. They were planets, basically. And Marduk was the planet, and Tiamat was a planet, and Earth was a planet, and all this other stuff. But I will also tell you this, and I should go over this because it's not a book, but I could go over the Enuma Elish. The Enuma Elish was told during a certain time frame. I believe it was from, if I'm not mistaken, it was either from July to August or April to July. I can't remember the exact dates but it was a festival, and I can't remember the name of I want to say the name of the festival was in Akitu. I can't remember it because I have it on my website. And like I said, I like to look at the stuff as I'm saying it. But there was a festival at this time frame, and that's when they told, when the creation of the gods, the planets, and the universe and all that stuff. It's the 7 tablets of creation. It's very in-depth, and it talks about it. Now, this is the cylinder seal VA243 that Zecharia Sitchin is always talking about. This is the one that I'm talking about. You see right there? Right there where the stars and the sun and all that stuff is. Then you see the inscriptions right here, and then on the other side, and then on the bottom, you see here, on the bottom right here, and then on the side. I've already talked about this, and I already brought this up. As a matter of fact, because this is a perfect opportunity to show you how I can tell you that Zecharia Sitchin was made up a lot of stuff. Let me bring this up because this is what I was talking to that dude on YouTube. Sitchin. So there's this website that Dr. Michael S. Heiser has, and it's called sitchiniswrong.com. Okay, let me close this out real quick and show y'all, because this is pretty funny to me, because you know how pissed off you have to be to make a website called Sitchin is Wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell you how I found this website. It's so funny how I found this website. So when I first learned about, when I first read, Zecharia Sitchin, I was trying to figure out, where did he get this information from? One day I was Googling, Sitchin is Wrong, right? And this website came up, and it's Dr. Michael S. Heiser. He passed away a couple of years also. And in here, I want to say it's under Nibiru, or it could be the 12th planet. Let me see. Let me make this smaller so I can see. No, it's not that one. I think it's the 12th planet. Yeah, it's the 12th planet. So here we go. So this is cylinder seal. This is the same thing that I just showed you, right? Cylinder seal 243. You see where it has this right here, and it has the inscriptions right here and here. Now I'm going to tell you something before I show you. These inscriptions right here, this writing system right here, the cuneiform, which this one right here I can tell you is Anu for a fact. But these right here on both sides, because this one right here is the same one as this one right here on the far right. So the far right one is the same as the one on the far left. And then right here on the bottom. What if I told you that this had more to do with German than it did with this with Planet Nibiru? Now I'm about to show you how why I said that, right? Remember when I said it has more to do with German than it does with with Planet Nibiru. So I'm gonna click on this. Of course, I gotta switch out, close it out, and open up another screen because that's what it does. Okay. So here we are, right here, right? All right. This is an explanation from Dr. Michael S. Heiser. Okay. The Myth of a 12th Planet, a brief analysis of cylinder cell VA243. Michael S. Heiser, PhD candidate, Hebrew Bible and Ancient Semitic Languages, University of Wisconsin and Madison. So you remember what I said right here? This is descriptions. These are descriptions and blah, blah. See, this is what he says. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to say that one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, first of all, the sun is not a planet. So when he wrote his book, The 12th Planet, including Nibiru, you're wrong, homie, because guess what? The sun is not a planet. It's always been a star. So stop with that bull crap and sitting there and believing this stuff. You know that the sun is a star, and you knew the Sumerians knew that, okay? I don't even know why he wrote that book. That's what really blew my mind is that he wrote a book called The 12th Planet, and he considers the sun a planet. Come on, man. You got to do better than that, homie. Way better than that. But then some people will point out this right here and point out this right here. I never got to see these in person, so I don't know if there's anything like this, but I can tell you that they're by looking at it, it's not, because it doesn't have the same, formations or style that it has. It just looks different from the point of view. But anyway, we're gonna go down and write down, or we're gonna go straight to where the inscriptions actually say. So this is where it says line 1, boom, line 1, boom, line 2, then line 3. Okay. Line 1 is Dub or Dub Siga, a personal name of an apparently powerful person. Line 2, Ili Ilaat is Ili Eliat, another personal name. This is this time of the seal's owner. And line 3, Ursu Dynect, German for your servant. So that's why I said that cylinder cell VA243 in itself has more to do with German than it does with Nibiru. I'm not saying that. It's just what I've read from Dr. Michael S. Heiser. And anybody that wants to, go ahead and go to the electronic text corpus of literature of ancient Sumer, and you will be able to see what this right here is. You can see that you'll be able to see the transliterations for yourself of this. I've already showed that on my last video. I don't have to lie. I don't have to make it up. The electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature is available for anybody online. Just go to Google or any search engine that you have and type in ETCSL. They also have a book, but it doesn't give you all the information that you need. So you have to use both of them. But like I said, it has more to do with German than it does with Planet Nibiru. Okay. And like I said, when you go back up here, why are you considering the sun a planet? Come on, man. We know those are two different things. We've been known that since we was little kids. I mean, you like I said, he creates his own narrative. Billy Carson, have he ever told y'all what cylinder seal VA243 says? Has he ever translated it for you? I mean, he says he's the top 4 guy that can translate the cuneiform tablets. That's what he says, right? He said it plenty of times. So question him. Ask him. Ask him. Just ask him. Yo, where's it at, Billy? Tell me, Billy. Come on, where my money at, Billy? That's what, a lot of people be saying that to him. But anyway, look, line 1, line 2, line 1, and line 3 has more to do with German than with Planet Nibiru. I'm not making this up, y'all. I'm just doing my due diligence and my research. That's all I'm doing. I don't care about being right or wrong. If I'm wrong, then show me, Billy. Tell me where I'm wrong at. Just give me the information and say, hey, look, man, rebirth, bro. This is where it's at, man. I give you the cuneiform tablet identifier because guess what? I can partially read it for myself. That's why I was able to point out that the Anu on line 1 or line 2. I'm sorry. This is the thing. Anu, his pictographic script looked like what would be considered a star. And that's how a lot of people can come out and say, look, Anu was considered with the star god, or at least one of the star gods. But I'm almost done with these tablets. I hope everybody's paying attention, because I'm telling you, I'm not lying about what I'm talking about. I'm bringing the facts to the table, the books. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if these people start reporting my YouTube just because they're getting tired of me calling them out. All I'm going to do is just recreate another one. I got a Rumble account. I mean, it makes no difference to me. All this stuff is being recorded anyway. And it doesn't take no much for me to go back and do these books anyway. You know what I'm saying? Just don't make me go harder than what I'm already going hard in on. You know what I'm saying? Because I definitely can do that. Here it is. It is a fact that the astronomical tablets from the very time record actual observations of Nibiru, alias planet of Nardu. He says it is a fact. Come on, bro. Okay, so what cuneiform tablet talks about Nibiru? Don't give me cylinder seal VA 243, because it ain't Sumerian. That's Akkadian, homie. But anyway, we're gonna keep it going. Some were reported as Amina. For example, a tablet, and this is what I like what he does, K868 688, that informed the king that if Venus shall be seen in front of, i.e., rising ahead of Nibiru, the crops will fail. But if Venus shall rise behind, i.e., after Nibiru, the crop of the land will succeed. He just basically told y'all that the sun is considered Nibiru, but he has this freaking idea to pass on, like Billy Carson, that planet Nibiru is its own thing. Remember when I was just talking about Pleiades, how it was used for agricultural needs, and that if it was at a certain point in the sky, that's when you had to do certain agricultural needs? We still use Pleiades today to determine that. The sun is not Nibiru, but he's telling, listen, just listen to this. This is how he contradicts himself. Listen. Some were reported as Amina. For example, a tablet catalog K86088 that informed the king that Venus shall be seen in front of, i.e., rising ahead of Nibiru, the crops will fail. But if Venus shall rise behind, i.e., after Nibiru, the crop of the land will succeed. He's literally telling you that the placement of the sun, if it's in the right position, that's when you needed to start your agricultural needs. If it wasn't in that position and it was in any other position before that, the crops will fail. We do that today in today's time frame. Farmers use that today. Pleiades. The Taino people use Pleiades. Mesoamerican people use Pleiades. Mesopotamia use Pleiades. They have it. That's why you have the 7 dots in some of their cuneiform tablets. Literally, this is why I say, that's why I get so frustrated when people get in these spaces on Twitter and they talking about what they think and all this other stuff. They going off of Zecharia. I can tell literally when somebody follows Zecharia Sitchin, literally. Or I can tell that they heard somebody who followed Zecharia Sitchin. They haven't done their due diligence. They don't know what cylinder seal VA 243 is, what it represented, and none of that. The ignorance is so freaking mass out there, to the point that, somebody like me who comes around here and shares the actual facts and stuff and prove me wrong. I want you to, because this is what I love, is the fact that we got to the point that this Zecharia Sitchin fool people to the point where they're like, oh yeah, he's the man. Okay, so you're following somebody, a blind man following a blind man. There you go. Here we go. Another tab. Ezekiel, a priest of Yahweh in Jerusalem, was among the aristocracy and craftsmen who had been exiled, together with King Joachim. After Nebuchadnezzar's first attack on Jerusalem in 598 BC, they were taken forcefully to northern Mesopotamia, settling in the district of Kabar River, just a short distance away from the ancestral home in Haran. And it was there that Ezekiel's famous vision of a celestial chariot had occurred. Now, I already talked about that on my last episode. I'm not about to harp on that right now again. Check out my last episode, what I've learned from reading this book, the 6th book. You're gonna get you'll get everything that I talked about on Ezekiel's wheel. And like I said, if you look up the etymology of the word vision, you would definitely see that it's something in the imagination. So you're basing, Billy Carson and Zecharia Sitchin, you know what they're doing? They're arguing and trying to make a point and create a narrative of what somebody's seen in an imagination, not with their eyes, or with the 2 eyes. Crazy that people don't know this stuff. And I don't blame the people that follow them. I only blame them when they're given new information and they have time to go just do their own research. What's the point of watching and gaining knowledge if you don't sit there and verify the information? I spent time in the military. Anybody that's listening can back me up on this. In the military, we had this saying, trust but verify. Yes, I trust my soldiers to do the right thing, but I need to verify they did it right. Just like this is no different than clearing your weapon. I trust that I took my magazine out and that no round chambered as when I had that weapon, but I have to verify when I come back in from being outside the wire. I have to take my weapon, put it in the clearer barrel, pull the charging handle back, flip it, look at it, make sure it's clear, right? But before that, what you have to do, you have to make sure you ain't got a magazine in there in the first place, because if you go ahead and charge that handle back and you have a magazine there, guess what you just did? You just reloaded a round in there. So what you have to do is you get out, you take the magazine out, you take it off. Some of us had it on safe, some of us didn't. And make sure you put it on safe. You pull the charging handle back, you flip it over, you look inside it and see if there's a round in there. If there's not a round in there, you let it go. And then even when you don't see a round in there, even when you already took the magazine out, you still have to pull the trigger inside the barrel. That's trust but verify. I don't know how to explain that any better than that. Next one, the Ugaritic text called the moon god El, simply God, a forerunner of Islam's Allah, and his moon crescent symbol crowns every Muslim mosque. And as tradition demands, the mosques are flanked to this day by minarets that stimulate multi-stage rocket ships ready to launch. Now, this is what he means by rockets. When they see mosques like this, he says those are rockets. I guess he never heard of pillars. You know what I'm saying? I guess he ain't ever heard of pillars. I don't know why he like I said, he picked the rocket thing to for his information. I got blurry again, so let me clear that out. But I can tell you, here, let me bring this up. Let me make sure, because I want to make sure. I want to bring this up to make sure that I find a good source for this. So let's see. Let me hold on, because I have the source up. Hold on, let me see. So when he said El, simply God, a forerunner of Islam's Allah, and his moon crescent symbol crowns every Muslim mosque, he's basically saying Allah was, the how can I say the sinful god, or the moon god. Well, the Sumerians had plenty of moon gods. Matter of fact, one of the moon gods that I like the most from that time, which is very interesting, because guess what? When we look at darkness or being dark or something, with lacking of light, is usually sin, right? Light, white, whatever you want to call it, represents something good. Dark, black represents something evil or bad, right? Well, Sin is actually one of the Mesopotamian gods from that time. It's spelled Sin. The Sumerian name is Nana, but the Akkadian version is Sin. And the title for this individual was Lord of Wisdom, Eliminator of Night, and the Father of Gods in some of the oldest times. And his symbol was basically the crescent moon. Same thing that Zecharia Sitchin does say. He says that he doesn't say Nana, Sin, Lord of Wisdom, Eliminator of Night and stuff, but he does says that the symbol for the god is the crescent moon. But the Sin was a god in Mesopotamia, and he was a moon god. The Mesopotamians had different moon gods. Same thing with the Egyptians and most every other civilization. They definitely had different things. But I want to show you this right here real quick, because I always talk about the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature, and I always try to bring facts in. So look, the herds of Nana. So this is actually, the god Sin. And if you read this, I'm not going to read it all, but if you read this, you can see for yourself that this god has some type of relationship with, here we go, Enlil, whose word is true, speaks with him day and night, and in decision determines the fates with him. So basically, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because if you read this has to do a lot with the agriculture itself. it's interesting because, like I said, if you go to the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature translation, you will see this for yourself. And here, let me just do something real quick. Let me see. ETCSL. Okay, so you type that in there and you go to click on here. Remember, I was showing you guys how to search things and stuff like that. Let's type in nano real quick. And this is all the stuff that you're going to get from nano. As you can see on the far right, it's a lot. This is a lot. So anybody that wants to know anything about, nano and get more into depths in it and understanding of it, you'll get an idea. So you remember that, a lot of people talk about the 7 days and all that stuff. You can see, look, my king on your throne for Enlil, may Nana Suen make you be born for 7 days. On your holy throne for the great mother Ninlil, may Lord Asambabar make you born for 7 days. So we knew that the Sumerians at least had a calendar of 7 days and of a week. We know that for a fact because it's right there written in there. It's I don't have to make this up. You can see it for yourself in your own thing. But here, look, when I type in, I like what I like to do is I like to hit Control F because I'm on my PC right now. You can do this on a phone. If you have an iPhone, you look at those 3 little dots on your iPhone and you scroll down and you'll see where it says Find in Page, and you can type in whatever it is you're looking for. So what I did on my PC is I hit Control F, and a little box popped up. It's not going to show up on my screen here because it's hidden. It's going to show a little box. I typed in the word night, Night, right? And you can see right here for yourself that there are different things. There are 7 or 8 different things that talk about the word night. Let's see. Let me see. That's the second one. The light. Okay, so this is An Adab to Suin for Susuin. The light which sweetens the night and structures the year. Nana, the crown of the holy heavens. Okay, now I want you to understand something. Enlil is considered holy of the heavens, or the crown of the holy heavens. Enki was considered Anu, but Nana is also known as the crown of the holy heavens. So, like I said, when somebody says that one guy ruled all and all this, that, other, third, look, it literally says that. Here, another one. Nana is the great Lord of heaven and earth. Nana is the great Lord of heaven and earth, people. Okay, this is straight from the text. This is from the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. So when people tell you Enlil was in charge and Enki was in charge or Anu was in charge, guess what I like to say? Well, Nana was in charge too. The sin god. Because guess what? That's what is named in Akkadian. And guess what else? He is the moon god. But I'm right over here reading right here. Nana is the great Lord of heaven and earth, has made manifest, is spreading. And it tells you that these lines are broken. That's what I'm telling you, is those lines, those dots, is stuff that they could not translate in those cuneiform tablets. It's just Billy Carson and Zecharia Sitchin. They try to put their own narrative into those dots. Don't do that. Stop trying to make people feel stupid, because I'm telling you, I felt stupid trying to understand why they said the stuff that they said, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm not gonna follow this no more. I'm not gonna follow what they said no more. They obviously they don't know what they're talking about. So I'm telling you, this is what it says. Look, the Lord, the son of An, with shining horns, renowned Nana. Okay, the Lord, the son of An, with shining horns, renowned Nana. Guess who else had horns in the Bible, or in the Bible at least? Moses. Moses is one of the first representations of in the Bible who had horns. Look, there's another thing. The light of the firmament, the light of the earth, whose luminosity speeds to the people, Lord, Asembabar, a viper made visible, the youth, Suen, whose holy consonants approaches the earth, Nana, just as he appears elevated in heaven and above earth, so he is elevated, Suen, over the land. That means Nana was basically in charge of heaven and earth, okay? This is from the Sumerian text, the electronic text corpus of Sumerian literature. This is what it's from. And like I said, you ain't got to believe what I got to say. I already showed you exactly what you need to do to go read this for yourself. I'm not like Billy Carson, and I ain't like the Zecharia Sitchin. I'm going to give you the facts over the fiction. I'm going to give you the facts over the narratives. Okay, and this is all the stuff that you can read for yourself, anything that you want to know. Let's see. Let me see if I can find. Let me hit Control F again. Let's see. Let Let's just try another one just to make it short. Here we go. Man, I'm telling you, when I say something, I don't have to lie about it. Here we go. The bull that eats up the black soup, the astro holy bull calf, i.e., the moon, came to watch over him. He shines in the heavens like the morning star. He spreads bright light in the night. Suen is greeted as the new moon. Father, Nana, gives the direction for the rising Yutu, the glorious Lord whom the crown befits. Suen, the beloved son of Enlil, the god, reached the zenith splendidly. His brilliance, like his starry radiance, illuminated for him in the mountain cave. Radiance. Guess what? Why I said that Moses had the first set of horns? Because of that right there, radiance. Okay, I don't have to sit here and make up anything to be right. I don't have to sit up here and try to make myself seem like I'm the smartest man in the world. I just read. I just read a lot, and I come with facts over fiction. So that right there is enough of harping on that. Let's get back to this book. Let's get back to this book. Let's get back to this book. Next tab. Jerusalem is chapter 5, chapter 15. I'm sorry. Jerusalem as Shalis vanished in the 21st century BC when nuclear weapons were first used on. In the 21st century BC, when nuclear weapons were first used on Earth, Abraham was blessed with the wine and bread at Yer Shalem in the name of the God Most High and proclaimed mankind's first monotheistic religion. Now, Abraham definitely is responsible for the first monotheistic religion. But what's so funny about that is that, and I said this just yesterday, I want to know which God that Abraham was actually who he worshiped, because we know that he wished for a son named, or he wished for a son. He was hoping for a son. And eventually he was granted that. But we also know he went around praying for that son too, went to different cities, different locations and stuff like that, prayed different shrines and stuff like that. And eventually he was granted a son. Now, Abraham's, they give or take, is about 2000 BC. Remember when I said that the Sumerian civilization was 3200 BC and the Akkadian is around 2334 BC because Sargon of Akkad? That is the same thing. So that's about the same time frame of the Nuna and the Anunnaki. We know the Chaldeans, the Babylonians, the Syrians, the Hittites, and all that. They had it came much later after the Akkadians, basically. And so that means for a fact that we know now, because some of you guys already heard this, that Abraham had to know who the Nuna / the Anunnaki was, because it was that time frame. It's just which one of those did he find as the one that he wanted to, basically worship. The next tab. The imperative of recapturing the whole city and the removal of uncircumcised foreign soldiers from the Temple Mount by 160 BC hold the key to another clue. While we have been using the accepted count of BC and AD for dating events, the people of those times obviously could not and did not use a timetable based on future. Christian calendar, the Hebrew calendar, as we have mentioned earlier, was the calendar which began in Nippur in 3760 BC. And according to the calendar, what we call 160 BC was precisely the year 3600. That's wrong. Not the whole thing, but precisely the 3600 BC. That's wrong. And it's just because he just picked this time frame, because let me tell you this. Nobody knows when the actual Hebrew calendar actually started. They give it a roundabout. Not everybody started the calendar at the same time. He actually has on the next page. Oh shoot, let me make this bigger real quick. He actually has this right here, which is basically the events of the time frame of what he considers, when the Sumerian civilization calendar stand. Now, it was so funny, if you read it, it says Niput instead of Nipper. So he spelled that wrong, actually. I don't know where, it's just crazy that he comes up with his own theories. Here's another tab. So without doubt, the cup of Elijah was there, but Da Vinci chose not to show it. In this Last Supper painting, which could only be based on the New Testament passages, Jesus is not holding the crucial cup, and nowhere is there a wine cup on the table. Now, he's basing this off of somebody's artistic view of what they understand about the Bible. And this is what he's talking about. He's talking about the Last Supper. Let me see. He's talking about this right here. That's what he's talking about right there. Figure 125. Right? So just to get this in context, he said, instead, there is an inexplicable gap to the right of Jesus, and the disciple to his right is bending sideways as if to allow someone unseen to become between him. Was the thoroughly theologically correct Da Vinci implying that an unseen Elijah did come through the open windows behind Jesus and took away the cup that was his? So he's basically saying Elijah snuck through that window and took the cup from Jesus. Now, Jesus is known for flipping tables. You think he's gonna let somebody just take his cup from him? The cup his? Come on, man. I was so blown that he said that. That's crazy. Okay. So chapter 16, Armageddon and prophecies of the return. He says, will they return? Will they return? This is a question he asked twice in there. These questions have been asked of me countless times. They being the Anunnaki gods whose saga has filled my books. The answer to the question is yes. There are clues that they need to be heeded, and the prophecies of the return need to be fulfilled. The answer to the second question has preoccupied mankind ever since the watershed events in Jerusalem more than 2,000 years ago. First of all, listen. Anybody that believes in God and believe that there was gods here on planet Earth, whether it was the Anunnaki or not, they're going to believe that they're going to come back. They want their savior to come save them. That's not hard to guess and think about. So him saying that, he's right. I mean, the Anunnaki were individuals who came from the depths of the sea and not from planet Nibiru, like I say all the time. And there's actual text that said that, and I've already did, all the podcasts on that. If they came from the depths of the sea, they're definitely going to come back from the depths of the sea. Okay, but the depths of the sea can be anything. That they come from underneath and more, lower ground of the sea, or the depths of the sea is on the other side of the world where there's hardly any land that can be seen, right? Let's go to the next tab. It is a spine-chilling realization that Ezekiel's list of those widespread nations, 38.5, that will engage in the final war Armageddon actually begins with Persia, the very country today's Iran, whose leaders seek nuclear weapons with which to wipe off the face of the earth the people who dwell there. Now, this is what he says that he's basically saying that the Iranians want to wipe off the planet. Now, I'm going to tell you this is going to be a little political real quick, so just bear with me. Here in America, we have nuclear weapons. Okay, here in America, there are people who live in houses that have weapons for home defense, right? If I'm allowed to have a weapon, then why can't my neighbor who wants to protect their home have a weapon? It's no different from any country. If America has nuclear weapons, then why can't other countries have nuclear weapons? How are you going to tell somebody who wants to defend their land, which Americans are known, or I'm not going to say Americans, well, yeah, Americans. If Americans are known for taking land from people, did we forget the Native Americans? I mean, all these people that's talking about immigration, just think about how Native Americans feel right now when they was sitting here fighting for their land and was pushed west over and over and over again. Land taken from them. They were given diseases on purpose. Their animals, their food was killed by masses to starve them out. Okay? So if people in other countries know our history and what we are capable of doing to the indigenous people here in America alone, then they had the right to do the same, and they have the right to protect themselves. Now, whatever reason they have whatever reason they want to use their weapons, like the saying goes, you can't prepare for you can't have peace without preparing for war. Okay? And everybody that knows American history, from the Native Americans to slavery and all this other stuff, America has a history of pushing people out of their own homeland. Okay? Literally. Okay? There's ways to push people out of their homeland. You don't have to. Now they do it more politically, right? Property tax. Think about it. You own a home, you pay off your mortgage, you're done with your 15, 30-year mortgage, but you still have to pay property tax. You get sick with cancer or some disease, and you have to spend that money to get healthy. But then at the end of the year, you don't pay a measly $2,000-$3,000, which some people would say measly, and I'm saying measly because that's what they say. You don't pay that $2,000, $4,000 property tax. Guess what? They take your land from you. Okay. Not only do they take your land from you, but that house with it is theirs. So that means they can go ahead and guess what they can do? Somebody who buys that house, the banking process starts all over again with the 15 and 30 years. So there's ways of pushing people out. So the idea that, we know that the realization of, anybody that wants to protect their land, their home, their property, themselves, their family, they're going to have weapons to do that. So him saying that, and not for nothing, America is the only country that use nuclear weapons on another country. So we the only ones that have that in our history books. Okay, so if we did it before, it's only a matter of time that we're going to do it again, right? Is something going to come up and somebody's going to make the hard decision to say, you know what, just nuke them, and that's it, right? But if everybody has nuclear weapons, you're going to be, hold on, I ain't gonna run in this person's house with a 9mm pistol and somebody got a Mossberg shotgun. You know what I'm saying? Both can do whatever they do to the person, but I ain't trying to get hit by no damn Mossberg shotgun, right? So the idea, in the instance, and the establishment of understanding that people want to protect themselves, anybody should do that. So that statement right there, I'm pretty sure that made some people upset when they first read that, especially if they're from that country. Many have attempted to decipher the mysterious number 666, assuming it is a coded message pertaining to the end of days. Because the book was written when the persecution of Christians in Rome began, the accepted interpretation is that the number was a code for the oppressor, Emperor Nero. The numerical value of those names in Hebrew added up to 666. Now, that's true. I didn't have to argue what. But the reason why I marked that up is because, like I said in my last video, if you read Robert Alter's book, his translations of the ancient Hebrew books and his translations of them, the 666 had a lot to do with gold. Actually, the first idea mentioning of 666 was because of gold. And I'm going to go over that in the future. Definitely going to add that to what I've learned from reading this book series on my YouTube. So just be on the lookout for that. But I'm telling you that. And like I said, I've always been able to show where I got my information from. The next tab, and this is one more tab after this. If that is what happened, it would explain the early arrival of Nibiru in 556 BC. So let me tell you this. If that is what had happened, it would explain the early arrival of Nibiru in 55 BC, 556 BC. Now, let me tell you that. He says that because his text, he says Nibiru comes every 3,600 years around the sun, right? So it comes around the sun every 3,600 years, right? If its early arrival around us was around 556 BC, that means that sometime after that, okay, we're going to have to wait another 3,600 years after that to find out if Nibiru comes out around there. So if anybody has ever read Zecharia Sitchin's book, all you have to do is doing the calculation 3,600 years after 556 BC, and you will get the next time when Nibiru is supposed to be here. So me, since I say if Zecharia Sitchin was right, we won't know that Nibiru exists until, let me see if I can ask ChatGPT this question. Let's see. Early arrival of Nibiru was around, hold on, let me move this. 556 BC. When is the next time will Nibiru show up? Let's see. Let's type that in. Early arrival of Nibiru was around 556 BC. When is the next time Nibiru will show up? Okay, I know it's not that, but okay, so right here it says, it gives me, let me just pull it up because I don't want y'all thinking that I'm lying. Because I definitely asked ChatGPT this. Just for clarification. So let's see, is there it is? Yep, there we go. So of course it says, you know, and that's why I write it. Early arrival of Nibiru was around 556 BC when it's the next time will Nibiru show up. And I just wrote, basically what he says here. I know that's not the earliest time. I know people will say it came, 450,000 years. I know that's what it says. That's what Zach. If you don't believe me, hold on. I'm just going off what Zecharia Sitchin said right here. That's all I'm doing. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, and he also calls it Planet X too, just so people can understand that. But here we go. Oh, let me move this one to the side. So there we go. So I'm not saying this right here. I'm not saying this part right here. But this is what it would be. This is the time that Nibiru will show up again here on planet Earth. So mark my words, everybody, the 95 people that are watching it right now. The next time, if Nibiru exists, okay, we won't know until 3044 common era time frame. Okay. Of course, they talk about it as not reliable in astronomy. Okay, I'm not saying that. If Zecharia Sitchin was right, I won't be able to say that he was right. I won't be on this planet. It would be 30, and I don't know why. I don't think he even put it in here in his books. Let me see if let me scan this real quick. Let's see. I don't think he actually puts this in his. He probably did. I'm not sure, but for you guys that want to know right now, the next time Nibiru will be here is not any time before 3044 CE because it takes it 3,600 years to go around every single time. Okay. And that's if it even survived, right? We don't even know if planet Nibiru survived because we know that every planet has a lifespan of some sort. That's just facts, okay? And I know that people are saying, you say you don't like using ChatGPT. I don't. I'm not good with math, but if you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. That's why I use ChatGPT for this because I'm not good at math. And this is, and it's not about not using ChatGPT. I don't go to ChatGPT to say that I'm right about something. I use it for verification's sake, like did Samuel Noah Kramer talk about vampires? Let me show you. Do you remember when I said that Samuel Noah Kramer talked about vampires? This is what I do. Let's see. Yes, I remember you mentioned Samuel. See how it says while Kramer doesn't explicitly use the modern word vampire, he does discuss. Now I have a series on my channel right now. What I've learned from reading this book from Samuel Noah Kramer. I can't remember which book it is exactly. So watch both of them, and you'll get great information from both. And what's so funny, and the reason why I bring up Samuel Noah Kramer is because most people know who Zecharia Sitchin is, but don't know who Samuel Noah Kramer is, which is crazy to me. But he definitely does use. Oh, it actually says right here, history begins at Sumer. So yeah, if you watch that, if you watch that video, you will see that he actually uses the word vampire in there. He actually. So when you type in, well, Rebirth said that Kramer said it in his books. ChatGPT, is he right or wrong? You're going to get them to say he doesn't explicitly say it, but guess what? He does because I have it and I showed it and I proved it. So ChatGPT is not always right. And that's why I say that you have to be careful what kind of questions you ask it. So I just want to make sure that you guys understand that. So let's go to the next tab. Well, the next tab is 2 tabs. So it's green and purple or pink. And the green one is basically reading the whole chapter. But I'm just going to read this little part. He says the Phobos incident remains unofficially. Hold on, let me see. Okay, yeah, this is what he's talking about. I think this is when he's talking about a UFO or UAP. So yeah, the Phobos incident remains officially an unexplained accident. In fact, right thereafter, a secret commission on which all the leading space stations were represented sprang into action. The commission in a document it formulated merit more scrutiny than they received for the key to understanding that the world's leading nations really know about Nibiru and the Anunnaki. And this is what he's talking about right here. It's crazy. Hold on. Oh man, wrong one. There we go. This is what he's talking about. Oh. Right. I got to give me another camera so I can do this better. So basically, there we go. Right there. That's what he's talking about. You know, see that right there? So he's talking about that as a UFO and stuff like that. So that was the end of it. Um, that was the seventh book of the Earth Chronicles. I'm the type of person that would tell you, look, go buy his books, read his books. But if you want the facts and the truth, and you want other people to know the facts and truth, just give them my YouTube channel. I have the series on my website. I'm sharing exactly what it is, what I've learned, and what I shared. And so on Monday of next week, if not Monday, Tuesday, definitely, I'm going to do the Anunnaki Chronicles. And then immediately the next day after that, I'm going to finish it out with the Lost Book of Inky. And then we can move on to the other books that I have after that. And like I said, Billy Carson's books are coming up. I'm going to share, how he exaggerated on some things and how he took information from other people and made it into a monetary gain for himself. And I'm going to just show you the facts. So like I said, hey, I appreciate everybody listening to me. Check out Lil Vibe. Oh, man, my banner wasn't showing. I just realized that. That's probably because I did that new update for my new introduction. Visit Lil Vibe on Spotify, great artist. I highly recommend him. I listen to his music at least, once a day because I like his music, and all I have to do is just listen to it just to support him, and that's the easiest thing. It doesn't cost me anything. I tell people this all the time. If you truly want to support somebody, everybody in here has cell phones, computers, laptops, tablets, and they all go to sleep. All you got to do is just play somebody's song or playlist while you're taking a nap. You can even play their playlist when you sleep at night. You don't have to. If you don't like the music, that's fine. But if you want to support them, it doesn't take much to support somebody. If your best friend opened up a bakery and you don't like cakes and stuff like that because you have diabetes, sharing their stuff for other people that do like it is support. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh, I got to listen to this music or I got to watch this person's videos. I mean, if you want to be educated and you want good music, then you do both. You know what I'm saying? You're going to listen to the music and you're going to definitely watch the video. Everybody has their growth. I can tell you right now, I started my videos with TikToks, and I did 2-3 minute, videos. Didn't know what I was doing. Didn't have, still don't really know what I'm doing. And a lot of people told me my stuff wasn't entertaining. So I kind of, started building PowerPoint slides, type of creating jokes and stuff like that. And just being me. I just tell you straight up, look, if you want the facts, if you're listening in your car, you're in the subway, you're in a semi truck driving, and you're providing, you got some headphones in there and you really want the facts over the fiction, you're going to listen to me. If you want some good music, you're going to listen to Lil Vibe. I appreciate everybody for coming out. Like I always say, hey, I appreciate that Lil Vibe Dope Show. He's in here right now listening. I'm telling you, me and him are really close. I'm actually going to take a trip to go visit him, hopefully next year. And we're going to go visit some museums and stuff like that. But like I say, everybody, knowledge is power. And I appreciate everybody coming here. Peace out.